I'm Candace, and welcome to I Am Not a Doctor, where I am not a medical professional, but I will give you the honest truth about health and wellness. I love sifting through the science so you don't have to. Today, we are going to talk about why having a morning smoothie could actually be one of the worst ways to start your day, and why, if you're trying to jumpstart weight loss, you might want to actually have more steaks instead of shakes. Let's dive in. So let's talk a little bit about smoothies. I think that we live in this time period where smoothies feel like the go-to hot girl breakfast, right? Like it's smoothies and it's like a smoothie before your workout or like a smoothie from the juice shop, and that's like the hot girl breakfast, is to make your smoothie with your fruit and maybe your oats and your almond milk and your powder from something from the rainforest that someone told you to take on Instagram, and that's like the hip thing that we're supposed to be doing. But the problem with that is that smoothies are notoriously high in sugar and carbs. Carbs are just going to turn into sugar into your body. Sugar is also not satisfying. Essentially, when you're making a smoothie, I hate to break it to you, but you're really just making a healthy milkshake, right? Let's break it down a little bit for those of you who like numbers and data. A strawberry banana smoothie from a very well-known smoothie chain is going to run you 37 grams of carbohydrates and 25 grams of sugar. That's for a 20-ounce smoothie. A banana, so like let's say you're just making a smoothie at home, a banana is going to run you, one banana, 28 grams of carbohydrates and 15 grams of sugar. And you might be thinking, okay, well, whatever, I don't have anything to compare that to, so maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. But let's look at a Krispy Kreme donut. One Krispy Kreme donut is going to be 20 carbohydrates and 10 grams of sugar. What I worry is that we're trading out these Krispy Kreme donuts, right? You're like, I would never have a donut for breakfast. That's unhealthy. But I am going to put a banana in my smoothie, and you're actually getting more carbs and more sugar into your body. This idea that if I have a banana, it's okay, and if I have a Krispy Kreme donut, that's not okay, doesn't pass the reality check, essentially. Like, yes, there are other things you're getting with that Krispy Kreme donut, but if we're looking at the facts of carbs and we're looking at the facts of sugar, that Krispy Kreme donut is going to be a better option than your banana in your smoothie. And what I'm really trying to explain to you guys is that we just have this idea about food that sometimes isn't true. We just implicitly believe that if we're adding fruit to our breakfast, that's going to be healthier than something that's prepackaged. And while there are potentially healthier aspects, that doesn't mean that if we're looking at sugars and carbs, that smoothie is actually, in fact, going to be a better option for you. What you're doing when you drink something like that is you're spiking your glucose, even if you have the fruit from the fiber, right? You're going to be spiking your glucose, and even if you add protein powder to that smoothie, if you have a banana in the protein powder, you're still going to get a glucose spike, which for most of us isn't great first thing in the morning. What should you be eating instead? What I really would love for you to do is prioritize protein and fat first thing in the morning with as little carbohydrates as possible. I don't care what diet you're on, this should still be what you're striving for. If you're eating everything, I love to see steak and eggs, right? If you're vegetarian, I love to see eggs and butter. That would be fantastic. If you're vegan, maybe that looks like tofu. I'm not a proponent of soy. The point is that this is adaptable no matter what diet you're following. As little carbs as possible, and we want to prioritize protein, and we want to prioritize fat. Prioritizing fat in the morning is going to jumpstart your body into burning fat, which, if you're a woman and you live in 2024, chances are you want to prioritize burning fat, even if it's just a little bit. After we've had this resting period, this fast, if you will, over the nighttime when we're sleeping, our bodies are going to be depleted of glucose. This is the perfect time to jumpstart your body into a fat burning state. But you're not going to jumpstart your body into a fat burning state if you give your body glucose first thing in the morning. If you're having that smoothie that's full of carbs and full of sugar, even if it's from fruit, your body is going to run through that so fast, and it's going to be in glucose burning mode and not fat burning mode. First thing in the morning, we really want to prioritize fat burning. We want to prioritize protein. So that's why that fat component is also so important. Protein and fat are also going to keep you satiated longer. And you really need both of those things together. They work synergistically to keep you from feeling like after you've had your protein shake, you need another breakfast, or you get to your desk in the morning after you shake and you need a handful of nuts. And we're immediately starting this cycle where we're spiking our glucose and then we're crashing back down. We're spiking our glucose, we're crashing back down. There's not this even flow of satiety throughout the day, and that's what you're going to get if you start incorporating more fat and more protein. You need them both to work synergistically. Your body's going to run on fat or it's going to run on sugar. And so if you have the choice, I love for women to start out first thing in the day running on fat. Even if you're not looking for weight loss, it's still just a good habit to get into, even if you want to talk about metabolic flexibility, to get your body running on fat first thing in the morning. If you want to incorporate carbs, I don't want to be the carb Nazi. If you want to incorporate carbs, you want to do that later throughout the day or later as a snack separate from your meals. But if you can do the first meal prioritizing protein and fat, if you can do the second meal too, that's awesome. But really, if we can just focus on this first meal of I'm going to hit my protein, I'm going to get my fat, I promise you that's going to make a huge difference. I can hear a lot of you say, okay, well, I really don't have time to make a full breakfast. That's why I do the smoothies, because it's easy and it's quick. I would challenge you, do you have time to go through Starbucks in the morning? Because if you have time to go through Starbucks, you probably have time to make eggs. But let's talk about protein shakes. Protein shakes sometimes are interchangeable, not interchangeable with the word smoothie. Sometimes people add protein powder to their smoothies. Let's talk about where those land on the spectrum, because you're like, but Candace, I can get my protein in my protein shake. And then I can have my berries and my protein and my almond milk, and then I'm good to go, right? A lot of times when I talk to women, what I find is when we really dissect the protein powder that they're taking in, the protein powder is full of carbs and it's full of sugar. When we look at what we're trying to avoid, which is carbs and sugar, there's normally a lot more of those in the protein than there's actually protein. In which case I would say you're doing yourself a disservice. You're just making a healthy milkshake. It doesn't matter that you have the protein powder in there at all. Another thing that I don't love about protein powders is people use protein powder essentially as a multivitamin. You see a lot of these influencers and podcasters, and even dietitians really pushing certain brands of protein powder that have your daily recommended values of not only protein powder, but you have it's like an all-in-one multivitamin. And then on top of that, you also have a bunch of random superfoods that you can't pronounce, that you don't know how they're going to interact with your body in the protein powder as well. So protein powders can have, 40 ingredients, and the only thing that you should be using it for is the protein. I don't love protein powders that are so full of ingredients that you would have no idea what is actually affecting you and what is actually moving the needle. And that's a problem. If you can't pinpoint what it is in your diet that's causing you to feel a certain way, then it's going to be really difficult for you to be able to move the needle to get to where you want to go, whether that's weight loss or feeling good. You're not going to know, is it the protein that I'm taking in, or is it because it has 6 different kinds of mushrooms in it and my body doesn't like mushrooms? I feel the same way about these green powders that people want to put in their smoothies. They're like, I'm just going to put all of this stuff, as many powders as I can, into my smoothie, and then that's going to be the healthiest way to start the day. First of all, your body has no idea what to do with all of this stuff at one time, right? Like, am I burning protein? Am I burning carbs? Am I burning fat? Am I actually trying to detox because some of this stuff that you gave me actually I don't like, but you don't know it and it's in this powder? Is this something that you have is causing you mild inflammation? That's also a possibility. A lot of us just take powders and put them in our smoothies and put them in our protein drinks because someone else told us to do it. Someone who's hot on Instagram told you, I take this collagen powder every day and this is what really changed for me. Or I take this green powder and now you can have 18 grams of serving of veggies and you don't even need to eat them, right? And we just do it because someone told us to do it. We really need to get to a place where we're a little more discerning. What I want you to do is, if you're currently using a protein powder and you're dead set on having these protein shakes, we want to simplify it down. If your protein powder has 15 different ingredients, you shouldn't be using that protein powder. You need to be really simplifying things down because, like I said, that's going to help you figure out how you're going to move the needle forward. There's a protein powder that I love. I will drop that down in the description so you can see what it is. You don't have to use that protein powder. But if you're looking for an example of what I mean by simple, this protein powder is incredibly simple. There aren't a lot of ingredients. You're really just getting the protein. If you want to add a little bit of monk fruit to that, or stevia, or something to that effect, a little bit of flavor, so like a vanilla, stevia, protein, right? 3 ingredients. That kind of protein powder is what we're looking for. That is going to help you figure out how this is affecting you and how it's moving you either forward or backward from your goals. I'm not a big fan of protein powders with many ingredients. I'm not a big fan of adding additional superfood powders to your morning shake. Things are just superfoods because of marketing. Let's just remember that. Yes, you can have a protein shake, but this protein shake needs to be really bare minimum. It's milk, it's protein powder, it's ice. It's water, it's ice, it's protein powder. It shouldn't be this huge conglomeration of ingredients. It needs to be very, very simple. And protein shakes are great, but you're also missing this fat component. And we talked about before how fat is so important and how that's going to keep you satisfied longer. So even if you have this protein shake, if you're missing the fat component, you're still probably not going to be satiated for a long period of time. Something that I put in my protein shakes is actually melted butter. It's sort of like we're veering into like a bulletproof protein shake, but I don't want to use the word bulletproof because that's a whole different company with like a whole different set of baggage to deal with. I'm essentially adding fat into my protein shakes because they are so sparse when it comes to ingredients. If you are someone who can't tolerate butter, who doesn't want to do butter, find another source of fat to add in there, whether that's MCT oil if you can tolerate it. I'm not a huge fan of nut butters just simply because they're also going to be inflammatory for you. They also come with a lot of problems like mold. So I don't love those, but that would be an example of adding fat. If you're going to do the protein shakes, you should also be finding a way to add a little bit of fat in there. That is going to really help, again, put you in this fat burning mode and help you feel satisfied for longer so we can really count it as a meal and not just like a snack that we're having in the morning. And I also really just quickly want to touch on coffee. A lot of people like to combine coffee with their protein shakes, or they just want to say coffee is their breakfast. It's not a good idea to have coffee. Spoiler alert, in case you didn't know, it's not a good idea to have coffee first thing in the morning. This is going to be really bad for anyone with cortisol spikes. It's going to be really bad for starting your body off in a deficit of what you really need, which is nutrition. I don't advocate coffee first thing in the morning. I don't advocate it to add to your protein shakes. If you absolutely have to have it, you need to be doing decaf. We certainly don't want the caffeine first thing in the morning. Another really important thing to point out is that it's really important that you actually have breakfast. If you're one of these people that thinks that you're going to skip smoothies and you're going to skip breakfast altogether, that's an awful choice. We really want to get your body in line with having good circadian rhythm balance. So many women currently feel that their hormones are imbalanced, or they just feel a little off and they don't know why, or, some women are educated on cortisol and they feel like they're having cortisol spikes. And a lot of this has to do with your circadian rhythm just being off. One thing you can do to sort of start your body creating the right hormones at the right time is signaling your body that it needs to do that by having breakfast, by having something in the morning. That's also why I'm such a big proponent of not having a smoothie in the morning, but really sitting down to have a breakfast. It doesn't take long to make eggs. You can even pre-make those little egg muffin things. So it's just like eggs and sausage, you put it in the oven, right? So something like that is really easy to do. You can make a bunch of them for the week, and then that's going to also set you off on the right foot with fat and with protein. If you feel like you're a woman who's struggling with weight loss and you feel like it could be hormonally related, then a really cheap, easy thing to do is try to get your circadian rhythm right. We should be focusing on that before we do a million different hormone tests and start taking all of these supplements and start getting on hormonal therapy. Let's try to get our body in the practice of doing what it knows how to do, and let's set it up for success, and let's try to implement these things before we take on a bunch of supplements. One of the best things you can do is eat breakfast first thing in the morning. I love to do it about 30 minutes to an hour after sunrise. That's going to start your circadian rhythm off to start your body producing the correct hormones. Switching up your morning smoothie routine can actually start to have overall better effects on your mental health. So let's talk about mental health really quick. Most mental health issues are based on chemical imbalances in the brain. The question that we should be asking is, where are my chemical imbalances coming from in the first place? Chemical imbalances are a direct result of oxidative stress, insulin resistance, and inflammation. When you give your body sugar and carbs, it's spiking your glucose and raising your insulin. This can cause you to have anxiety and depression. Sugar is one of the most inflammatory things that we can put into our body. You have to realize, whether you like it or not, that fruit is full of sugar. The idea that somehow it's not the same as regular sugar is just not true. Yes, it has fiber, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get the sugar as well. A cookie also has fiber, but that doesn't mean that I'm not getting the sugar with it. So if you want to lower the inflammation in your body and your brain to try to combat some of that anxiety and depression, you might want to try lowering your sugar intake, lowering your fruit, lowering your carbs. And a great way to do that is just by getting into the habit of switching out your smoothie for something that's high protein and high fat. You don't have to believe me, but what I will say is that you can always just try it for a month and see what happens. Nothing awful is going to happen to you if you stop getting that smoothie box and you start eating eggs, right? We can try something for a month and see what happens. So you don't have to take my advice, but I would encourage you to treat yourself as the experiment and just switch it up and see what happens. And then report back to me. Tell me how it went. Tell me how you felt changing your diet up. Because honestly, the best way to see how you're going to react to something is to take control of your own diet and make those changes. So look, I would love to hear from you. If you have ditched your smoothie routine and swapped out your breakfast for something that's more high protein and more fat, I would love to know. Let me know in the comments below. My goal is to help you thrive in a world that is set up to sell you the idea of health by people who still feel unhealthy. I encourage you to think outside of the box and try implementing something new. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. And if you want more simple, straightforward health advice, please subscribe to my channel. I drop a new video every week. Remember, you are in control of your health. It just might take you changing everything you thought you knew to get to where you want to be.